a remontada, there's a sequential events for a remontada to happen. The first key thing is that you have to score early in the game. Coming out guns blazing and not being fazed by what the opponent is going to present to you. Opponent who's afraid to suffer a remontada, they will come out very afraid and play a low block. I think Arsenal should avoid falling into that trap and they should just come out and play their real football. Because the dangerous thing that could happen is Real Madrid going out at halftime leading 2-0.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Clean Strike. It's crunch time in the Champions League as the quarterfinals head to the second legs after a blockbuster set of fixtures last week. I'm joined once again by Alejandro and Djibril. I'm sure one of us is slightly less happy than the others after the results last week. So Alejandro, why don't we ask you how you're feeling heading to the Bernabéu on Wednesday evening?
If you ask me on Wednesday, on last Tuesday, I'll say that there is no chance of comeback. Because, but we are now in the Holy Week, so it's a week where the faith is starting to grow up, especially in Spain.
Yes,
and why not? We have faith in Real Madrid to make the remontada once again. Because if we think that Real Madrid can do it, but they need to be focused in the first minute, and that's the thing that they didn't do on the first leg in London. So it's going to be a matter of focusing. And Arsenal, if they want to go through the semi-final, they need also to be focused and remember that they didn't bury completely Real Madrid and they didn't put all the nails in the coffin.
Yeah.
So even though they win 3-0, there is still chance for Real Madrid.
As you said, a time of year famed for comebacks. I mean, maybe the most famous comeback ever has happened at this time of year. So who knows if Real Madrid can turn it around. Djibril, what were your thoughts after the first leg? Obviously, there was some really, really great games last week, but obviously this game stood out. I think we knew it was going to stand out. We kind of earmarked it last week and we said it was going to be the one to watch. So what did you think?
Yes, so I think last week I gave Arsenal the edge. I think I gave them a 60% chance of winning that game, the first leg, because I thought that Arsenal, over the course of the season, they have been more consistent than Real Madrid. Real Madrid over the course of the season, I've seen them pick up bad habits throughout the course of the season.
Yeah.
Their attacking front line, for me, it's not a 1-2 punch. There's no synergy there. For me, it's more like a my turn, your turn kind of offense. And when you have that, usually you get found out in the big games. And that's what's happening. It's going to be very interesting to see how Vinicius and Mbappe basically take hold of this game, because let's be honest here, if Real Madrid get knocked out this early, they have no chance to win the Ballon d'Or. So that's the first thing I think on their mind is, if I get knocked out here, I'm not in the running for the Ballon d'Or. I can't even finish in the top 5 of the Ballon d'Or potentially. So the stakes are high. Bellingham as well is a Ballon d'Or candidate. So if they get knocked out, it's over for them. Arsenal, I think it's just about, I don't think they can play the same way they did in the first leg. That would be very naive. But I think if they just come and play a style of football that won't allow Real Madrid to develop their game, I think that'll be fine and they'll progress.
Yeah, I think last week I said about Arsenal is it felt like they were the nearly men, the men who almost did it a lot of times and stuff like that. And the way I think I described this performance last week was like the coming of age performance. I think that just across the pitch, it was so mature. And I don't know if Real Madrid were not expecting that, or were Arsenal just that good last week, Alejandro? Because obviously being a Madrid fan, you watch them a lot. Was there an element of Madrid not being good, or was it Arsenal being really, really good?
I think it was all a matter of factors because, for example, it was a matter of the lack of concentration of Real Madrid, especially in the second half. In the first, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes to the second half, it was what it killed the game completely. We saw that on the backs, neither Lucas Vázquez nor Fran Garcia, they were doing a proper job. So it was like two highways that all the Arsenal players, they were taking profit of them. Also, but Arsenal, we need to put in value the quality of Arsenal and the quality of players that they have. For example, Declan Rice. 2 free kick goals. Can you explain me? A player who hasn't scored 2 free kick goals scores against Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. It's
and also two of the best.
Unique.
Two of the best I've ever seen. The first one, I thought it doesn't get better than that, and then he smashes it in the top corner for the second one. I honestly, I screamed. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I couldn't hold it in. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I think as you said, I think again, Bukayo Saka was incredibly impressive last week. He looks like he's not really had a break from football. He's come back in unbelievable form. But there's one thing that Carlo Ancelotti has said, and so has Jude Bellingham a couple of times, and a couple of other players. They say that Madrid need to suffer in games. They need to suffer, and then they find their way into it, yeah? They suffered a lot, and they never didn't suffer. The whole game, even when Arsenal were 3-0 up, there was not a point in that game that I went, Madrid have been the better team here. I don't know what you think. Do you agree with that?
Not only that, not that they need to suffer. That is true. That they need to suffer to win games and to win titles. They need to suffer because suffering is always the step before the success.
Yeah.
But also the thing is that they need to have a shock of reality. And I think what is happening in London, it was the biggest shock of reality because one thing that it was lacking Real Madrid on the last months, it was that they believed much more better than what they are.
Yeah.
And of course, if you see pound by pound, they are a bunch of top players, for sure. Mbappe, Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo. But sometimes a team needs a shock that they can come back to earth and set up and think, hey guys, we need to concentrate, we need to focus, and we need to go faster to get our goals. So I think that what happened in London, I consider it more than suffering, like a shock that could help Real Madrid to make their remontada real. Yesterday, for example, we saw in Vitoria that even though Mbappe got a red card after getting a tantrum moment with a player, we saw that concentration of Real Madrid was much better than in other games. Yeah. And only this kind of aggressive game from Alaves was the only thing that took off Real Madrid out of the game. But on the other things, Real Madrid was very concentrated and it was very powerful.
Yeah, so on that, Djibril, do you think, how do Real Madrid get back into the game? Obviously, an early goal will help kind of settle some nerves and it will make Arsenal nervous, but is there a way, is there any positives they can take from last week? How do you see them being able to turn this around?
Yes, I think Ale mentioned remontada there, which is a word I heard a lot in the past few weeks. In the past week, after obviously the defeat. A remontada, there's a sequential events for a remontada to happen. The first key thing is that you have to score early in the game. You come out guns blazing, you score early in the game. The second thing is, if the other team scores, don't panic. That's the second thing. The third thing is, try to bait the opponent into committing a direct foul. What I mean by that is either provoke a penalty, provoke a free kick at the edge of the box, or provoke bait the other team into getting a red card in the first half or early in the second half. Those are the things you can control in order to engineer remontada. Because remontada, I think, is 70% luck, but 30% you are actually creating the circumstances that can lead to a remontada. So if you look at the remontadas that have occurred in the Champions League recently, Liverpool, Barcelona, all those things, I mean, it just comes from either set piece creativity or just coming out guns blazing and not being fazed by what the opponent is going to present to you. Because usually the opponent who's afraid to suffer a remontada, they will come out very afraid and play a low block because they don't want to concede.
Yeah,
I think Arsenal should avoid falling into that trap and they should just come out and play their real football. Because the dangerous thing that could happen is Real Madrid going out at halftime leading 2-0.
Yeah.
That would be a dangerous situation from Arsenal. Why that is, because Arsenal, this is a team that hasn't... How many players in this Arsenal team have played more than 50 Champions League games?
Yeah.
Think about it. I think only Thomas Partey, who played for Atletico, obviously, has played a lot. But other than that, Jorginho isn't going to be starting. So Arsenal has to be very careful about that. Now, Real Madrid, usually the remontadas, is 2-goal difference. This is a 3-goal difference. So that's also another parameter that works against them. The fourth one, and this is the last one. I think Ancelotti has to move Bellingham at the 8th position, the number 8 position, and play someone like Brahim Diaz or even Ada Güler if you want to be very bold and brave about it. Play him at the number 10 so that you can actually have, because for me, Bellingham is a number 8 who can play as a number 10, but he can't consistently play the killer pass in a game. You can't ask Bellingham to do that because he's an all-action midfielder. So you need that classic number 10 in there to feed. Maybe bring in Rodrigo as a number 10 and put Endrick alongside Mbappe up there and have them play a 2-man game there and leave Vinicius on the wing. Because we know Rodrigo works hard. So if you put him at the 10, he's going to actually track back. So be brave and bold about it, because Ancelotti has been very scared thus far to give chances to those young players. I think this is the time to do it, because you are trying to go out guns blazing into going and beating one of the best defensive teams in Europe. I think the Spanish press are not realizing that Arsenal is one of the best defensive teams in Europe. They remember those Arsenal teams from Arsene Wenger eras and stuff where they were very attacking. It's a very good defensive Arsenal team. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the remontada thing.
Yeah, so go on, Ali. Sorry.
I find very wise what you comment about the trap of the block of the lower block. How if Arsenal wants to go to the semifinals, they don't need to fall in the trap of all this lower block, and also that is the first time in the modern era Real Madrid needs to come back at 3-goal difference. I mean, they tried once in Dortmund against Dortmund in 2013, and it was they get so close to get it. It was very close, but at the end of the day, when it comes Bernabéu and remontada and a game, especially against Bernabéu, it comes what a lot of Real Madrid fans are calling now: "Welcome to the mental hospital." Welcome to the mental hospital, al manicomio del Bernabéu.
Yeah.
So it's going to, of course, Ancelotti should know how to play this. Should know how to play the games. Arteta needs to know how to play these games so that they can preserve their advantage. But if the game starts crazy and if Real Madrid scores 2 goals in, let's say, a 5 minutes or 10 minutes difference, all the analysis we are doing, they are going to be worthless, to be honest, because it's going to be like, welcome to the mental hospital of Bernabeu, and nothing is going to be as we thought.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have a question for you guys. Do you think that Ancelotti could lose his place if Real Madrid gets knocked out? I go back and forth on it. I'm not quite sure, because Real Madrid, their owners are very hard to read.
Yeah. So I was going to comment on Ancelotti, and I was going to say, I think that he is clearly an exceptional manager, but I think that in the past couple of years, the team he's had and what he's been allowed to buy and have at Real Madrid has really covered over some quite glaring tactical issues in his game, and I sat there having an argument with my dad and my brother about this, and I said I just don't think he is anymore. Yes, he has won 2 Champions Leagues in the last 5 years, but I just don't think he is an outstanding manager. I think that
tactically, I agree. Actually, I don't think he's a great tactical manager.
I think that he's got a bunch of players that he just puts on the pitch, and luckily for him, they are that good that they find ways to win games. You look at the Champions League 2022 final, Liverpool were all over them, absolutely outstanding, but they had Benzema, the Ballon d'Or winner that year, and Vini Jr., who was coming into his own to score the goal. They managed to find a way, they crafted a way, and they had Courtois in goal, Last year against Dortmund, they got a bit lucky in the final. Dortmund could have had a couple of goals early in the game. For 60
minutes, they dominated. Yeah.
The 2022 season again, they should have gone out to Chelsea. They could have gone out to Man City, he is very lucky. And then I contrast it with a Barcelona, who are financially in the mud. They're obviously not particularly well run at the moment, but Hansi Flick is getting a lot out of a very, very small group of players. I mean, yes, again, they are obscenely talented. We haven't seen anyone as good as Lamine Yamal in a long, long time. But he is still getting stuff out of him, out of Lewandowski, out of Rafinha, out of Kabasi, out of Casado when he was fit, out of Balde, you know? And I just compare the two and I go, I just don't know if Ancelotti has the tactical nous to go and win this game without a bit of individual brilliance. So I think
his son, actually. His son, Davide Ancelotti. I think
he could change it.
He might be the brains behind the operation.
He might be. But I do think that if they lose, Ancelotti's job's in trouble. I'm not sure who's out there. Obviously, there's some murmurings that Klopp might be the guy they go for. I can't see him coming out. It's kind of set up for Alonso, isn't it?
Talking about the succession of Ancelotti now is quite difficult. Thinking that we have a game in 48 hours, that is going to be the game of the season.
Yes.
But one thing for sure is that one thing they have deserved Ancelotti, Modric, and these players of Real Madrid is their right to failure.
Yeah. Oh,
for sure.
And
for sure.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
It's a generation of players that has been historical, and for sure they have earned this right. Let's see. Maybe what we talk about now is on Thursday is not valid, and they have done the remontada, and we are talking now in 1 month saying, hey, again Real Madrid on Champions League final.
Yeah.
So
if everything I just said,
do this in Europe is Real Madrid.
Yeah,
for
everything
sure.
I just said goes completely out the window. If Ancelotti tactically outclasses Arteta, who I think is tactically a very good manager, he may be not a tactically amazing attacking manager, but he can set his teams up defensively amazingly well. We've seen that over the last 2 or 3 years. But as I said, if they get through, then maybe I'm going to sit here eating some humble pie, as they say.
I do want to make a final point, if you'll allow me, because you mentioned Modric, Ale. In my opinion, Modric is part solution, part problem. The reason I say that is Toni Kroos retired, obviously, and we know he's the gaping hole that's been missing for Real Madrid. People are asking, why can't Modric do what Kroos did? The reason that is because Modric, the way he runs a game, and Kroos, the way he runs a game, are different. Yeah. Kroos runs a game with his range of passing and the long passes. He was the best at it for a generation. Modric, he runs the game not by the long passes. He runs the game with the short passing and the movement and the little gives and goes, all those things. So Real Madrid don't have someone in their midfield who can dictate the game with the range of passing.
Absolutely.
Modric can do it, obviously, but he can't do it over 90 minutes. You need someone who can run a game with range of passing over 90 minutes.
But
and that's
Modric
what I'm saying. Real Madrid, they have a problem right now they can't solve. They can only solve it in the transfer market. So right now, it's all only about minimizing the damage and trying to finish the season strong. And you go in the market and you buy maybe someone like Zubimendi or Rodri is untouchable. But you need basically that ball-playing number 6 who's press-resistant. And they don't have that.
Which is going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Giving minutes to Arda Güler.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for sure.
Play him at the number 10. Arda Güler, play him at the number 10. That's my final word on it.
Completely. Also, for sure, Luka Modric is not the same player it was, let's say, 10 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
For sure, eight at the end of the day, 8 comes to everyone. And Luka Modric is not an exception, but still can give some master classes on the pitch. So really, that's why I commented earlier this right to failure. Luka Modric has completely earned, and he's the one that can decide whether he retires or not. Because
I would say, as you're saying, like Madrid have done a pretty good job of squad building in terms of like they flipped it from buying the best players at their prime age to basically buying these youngsters they knew would turn into like exceptional talents in Vini and Rodrigo. And I mean, Bellingham was again maybe a bit of an exception because he was obviously clearly destined for greatness and he was already perfect for the first team. But like Modric is at that point where you can give these players a rest in the league and Modric can run a game, and he's not going to look out of place in a game against 2/3 of La Liga, right? He's going to be able to dictate the game, as you say. But yeah, in a big Champions League tie like this, I think maybe, and Arsenal are one of the most physical teams in the Premier League. You look at them, there's a lot of like big players in there. Declan Rice, Saliba,
Partey.
Partey,
That midfield is brutal.
I tell you what, Ben White and Jurian Timber are nothing to shake out either. They are incredibly imposing figures. So, yeah, it maybe isn't the right time for him. But yeah, Madrid are, as you said, with Toni Kroos, it looks like they're going to replace him with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Coming in off that right back spot is what he likes to do and kind of ping the ball, which is what I can see. Maybe now you've said it makes perfect sense, but you never know. But there we go. So let's get one final word on this from both of you. I want a score prediction of the game tomorrow. So tell me your score prediction and what that would make it on aggregate, and therefore who's going through. Alejandro, I'm going to start with you, being the resident Madrista among us. What is your score prediction for tomorrow, the aggregate score, and who's going to head through in the tie? Not tomorrow, Wednesday is the game.
On Real Madrid Arsenal.
Yeah.
4-3 Real Madrid.
Oh, 4-3 on aggregate. Time. Amazing.
And Real Madrid entering the extra time in the 92nd minute.
Amazing.
Okay. I predict a 4-1 aggregate for Arsenal. I think the game will be a draw. I'm not sure about the 1-1, but I'm sure it will be a draw this game. I'm actually leaning towards a 0-0 for this return leg.
Arsenal can do it. I'll tell you that.
That Arsenal defense is absolutely... It's the second... In my opinion, Arsenal has the second best defense in the Champions League right now, after Inter Milan. So that's my prediction.
I'm going to go 3-0 Real Madrid, penalties. Bukayo Saka to score the winning penalty after Jude Bellingham misses. Get those England boys against each other.
That's hard.
I don't know. Honestly, I can't call it. I think this game,
that would be more painful. That's more painful even than the miss of Ewan in 2013 against Dortmund.
But as I said, I think Ancelotti might, maybe humble pie, you might win 4-0, who knows? But I honestly can't call it, so I've just thrown out the most random prediction. If it comes through, I'm going to wish I'd stuck some money on it, let's put it that way. Anyway, there are 3 other games to have a look at. We're going to kind of briefly look over them because a lot of these ties seem to be not over, but close to over. We'll touch on the most interesting one, which got a little bit to play for, but I think we all see it only going one way, which is Inter currently leading Bayern 2-1 after winning at the Allianz. Inter, again, as we said, I think we all kind of predicted it might happen. They dug in for a result, and it was a bit of a tale of the 2 strikers, which we mentioned last week. Martinez stepping up when they needed him to. Harry Kane not able to convert numerous chances in that game. Again, any quick comments on this one before we get to a little score prediction, either of you?
Yes. I think Bayern Munich will go through.
Oh, right.
This is the thing I'm the most sure about in this Champions League match today.
Interesting.
Apart from the Arsenal thing. I think they'll absolutely go through. Because for me, they were very unlucky not to win that other game the other week.
Interesting.
Inter Milan, obviously very pragmatic. But for me, can you hold that over 90 minutes? Bayern Munich, they probably have the second best attacking team in Europe. They have a striker in Harry Kane who can score at any moment. So yeah, I think Bayern will go through.
Interesting.
I'm actually very convinced about it. For me, just the absence of Musiala, of course, is going to be a problem. With Bayern, though, the other big problem is the defense. We saw it against Dortmund.
Yeah,
it's a very worrying defense, and I always said that Upamecano was overly criticized by Bayern fans. And now that he's not playing, we realize actually how important he is, because Kim Min-jae and Eric Dyer, it just hasn't worked out. When you have a defense, you need an alpha. It's going to sound very macho, but you need an alpha male in there,
right,
to kind of guide someone who's maybe a bit less experienced, so that it can be like a 1-2 punch. Like, for example, Liverpool right now with Van Dijk and Konate.
Yeah.
Arsenal with Gabriel, who's obviously the alpha male, and Saliba, who's the inexperienced kid, who's obviously very promising. Yeah. So you need that 1-2 punch. When you have 2 guys who are a bit hesitant, a bit unsure, a bit struggling to command the back line, your defense is going to be vulnerable. Yeah. So Bayern, Upamecano, I'm sorry to say, he's your best defender. He has a mistake in him. He's very error prone, but he's your best defender. Whatever happens.
Okay. Interesting. Ali, any thoughts?
I think Inter Milan is going to go through to the semi-finals, and really now is my favorite to go to the final on that side of the bracket.
Really, ahead of Barcelona?
Totally, really. Have you seen how this Inter Milan defense?
Yeah,
Have
amazing.
you seen how they play with all the automatism? For sure, of course. They don't have in the attack players, as we can say, either like Lamine Yamal, a Hurricane, or whatever other players arrival having this side of the bracket. But in defense, I think they are the best in Europe.
Yeah.
And also Inzaghi has done a tremendous job, and they have an unfinished business that it means to win again Champions League 15 years after their last title. So I think they can do it.
Follow-up question: is Inzaghi the most underrated coach in Europe?
Totally, I think one of the most underrated coaches in Europe.
I'm surprised, like someone like a Chelsea didn't really try and convince him. I know, but they're born on they're bred on Jose Mourinho. Antonio Conte.
It's not the same ownership. This ownership.
No, I know.
Inzaghi, if you notice, he plays a lot of these older players, these veterans like Darmian. Like all these Acerbi. So a lot of players who are well past 30 years old. So Damian is 36 years old. So Chelsea is scared of that. Those numbers now. So
I can understand that, but I do think that maybe I think he will be touted for some big jobs soon. He's done a very, very good job at Inter.
I think the Italian national team probably is the next stop for him.
Potentially. Yeah. Anyway, let's get a score prediction on that. So, Ali, you go first on this one. You went first on the last one, but you can go first again.
Well, Barca Dortmund, I think it's easy.
Inter Bayern.
Inter Bayern. I think Inter Milan, they're going to hold up the 1-2. I don't know if they will win, but at least they will get a tie. So
okay, so 1-1 or 0-0.
Let's say 1-1.
So 3-2 on aggregate for Inter Milan.
3-2 on aggregate. Yes.
And Djibril, where are you heading?
3-2 on aggregate. 2-1 after extra time. So 2-2 after extra time. Sorry, and 3-2 after extra time for me. Yeah.
So Bayern to win. So that means Bayern would win 3-2. Okay.
Yeah. 3-2.
Okay, brilliant.
I predict Bayern to win the home thing. That's my thing. I think they'll at least reach the final. That's my prediction.
Wow, amazing. So I think Inter will go through. I think 1-0. I wanted to touch on the goal last week from Lautaro, which was just sublime. I think if you could design an Inter goal and show it to Inzaghi, it would be that. It'd be a winger flying down the thing, putting it in, and the strikers linking up to score an absolute wonder goal. I think that I'm going to go 1-0 Inter, which would set up what I believe to be an amazing semi-final. As you mentioned, Barcelona there. Against Inter, you think that they would struggle. They obviously didn't against Borussia Dortmund. They tore them apart. They looked a little bit vulnerable at times, I will say. Dortmund may be unlucky to not head back with one goal. But yeah, let's start on that one quickly. Djibril, where do you see that going? Is it kind of the case of more again? Because that's how I see it.
Yeah, this tie is done and dusted. I think we are all going to these Champions League weeks expecting at least one remontada. Yeah. I don't think there will be. I don't want to be a killjoy here. I don't think there will be any remontada this week. Yeah. But yeah, I think Barcelona will actually win this one again comfortably.
Yeah. Because
for me, Dortmund, even though they have a big boost of confidence after a very encouraging draw against Bayern Munich, for me, that was just a smokescreen. Bayern Munich, their heads were turned. I don't think that draw has any sort of weight. I think Dortmund will fold. I think Dortmund, a lot of players are fighting for their future at the club, actually.
Yeah.
So what I would tell them is maybe just give a good showing to the rest of the season. But this is a throwaway season for Dortmund. But a lot of players are fighting for their future at the club.
Yeah.
And Dortmund is in for a big restructuring in this summer. I think there will be lots of ingoings and outgoings. It's all about just basically keeping the spirit, giving the pride of Dortmund in the Champions League and not being crushed at home because you're playing at home. And maybe you can exploit Barcelona's youth because their defense for me is their big Achilles heel. That's something you can exploit as well. But for me, Barcelona comfortably.
Okay.
But Barcelona won't win the Champions League. I see a lot of people saying they were going to win it. For me, when you don't have a strong defense, you can't win. When you don't have a strong attack, you can win the Champions League. because defense wins championships. A good attack just wins you games. But for me, a good defense, that's what gets you to the finish line.
I think Barcelona will win it all. As a little thing, I think they will. I just think they're so. But the tie I want to see is Inter Barca. I think the best attack in Europe against the best defense for 180 minutes would just be like brilliant to watch.
Completely.
But anyway, let's get a quick score prediction on the Borussia Dortmund Barcelona game, which from both of you, Djibril, you go first here.
Okay.
I think a 2-0 advantage, like a 2-0 advance for Barcelona. So I think maybe like something like 2-0 or 3-1, but 2-0 advantage. So I'd go to 2-0 actually, yeah.
So 6-0 on aggregate. Alejandro, what are you thinking?
Okay, with my heart, 5-4 for Dortmund. But my brain tells me that, and reality tells me it's going to be maybe, I would say maybe or either 1-1 or 2-2 in Westfalen Stadium. So it will be like 6-1 or 7-2.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And then finally, the last tie of the round, Aston Villa trying to overturn a 3-1 deficit against PSG. I mean, PSG are just incredible. They could go all the way as well. They're another one that I'm keeping an eye on. I did mention keep an eye out for Morgan Rogers, who scored Villa's first goal and was quite impressive in the game, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I just got some stats I want to share with you, which is PSG took 30 shots compared to Aston Villa's 8 in Paris, and they also completed 816 passes compared to Aston Villa's 217. So they completed almost 600 passes more, which in terms of two elite clubs, Aston Villa are a very good team. Maybe not as good as they were last season, but still very, very, very good. Yeah. 600 more passes completed is obscene. I mean, PSG under Luis Enrique are a completely different beast. They're really tapping into this youth, and maybe not the Galactico, which is not the right word, but not the Galactico model they have followed in the last 10 years of signing the best players at their prime. But yeah, how do we see this tie going? Just very quickly, give me your thoughts on it. I think we're all fairly similar thought process that PSG are gonna take it again.
Yeah. The funny thing about PSG is the year when they stopped obsessing about the Champions League, and when they actually started a project based on building up young players. That's the year when they're actually playing the most impressive football, and when they seem to be the closest to actually winning it, which shows you that winning the Champions League is not a birthright. To all these clubs out there who think, hey, I want to win the Champions League in 5 years. No, it's not a birthright. It's not something you come into and say, okay, I'm going to win it. It's a process. You build the building blocks. And when you have a strong foundation, you can go for it. One thing I want to add is never in a million years would I think that after Verratti would leave, PSG's midfield would be stronger.
Yeah.
PSG midfield right now is very complete, very dynamic with Vitinha, with Joao Neves, Fabian Ruiz. Would you believe that Fabian Ruiz is actually the one who's disappointing this season in the midfield? He was actually one of the best players in the Euros. So it's a very good midfield. It does lack a little bit of bite, though. That's why I'm a bit skeptical if they go to the games against Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or Barcelona. That's where I'm a bit skeptical. But so far, so good. Everything's good. PSG will go through, in my opinion. If they don't go through, it might put a damper on the season, because this has been a very productive and positive season. But I expect PSG to go through. For Aston Villa, I'll just be wary about Villa Park. I watch the Premier League a lot. Villa Park, when it gets rocking, it's one hell of a place. Just be wary about it.
I agree. I think that the performance they put in at Anfield will give them hope, because that's, again, somewhere you don't want to go on a deficit, but they're obviously leading this time. The
Anfield atmosphere, though, I have to say, slightly overrated lately. I just wanted to
maybe in the last couple of months it wasn't as it could have been, but it isn't. So it isn't a place you want to go and try and. That was just a side note.
Sorry, I like to sometimes say the controversial.
it will give them a bit of hope. They went there, they won the game. They won 1-0. Stopped Liverpool from scoring. So if you can do that, I think they'll feel fairly confident that they can go to Villa Park. Alejandro, you got anything to mention on PSG quickly?
Well, as I commented last week, PSG is much more humble this time, and we are seeing also, and that it translates to a team that can go until whenever they want. So now, if we saw the other years that they were saying we want to win the Champions League in 5 years and we are investing lots of money and no matter what we are going to fight for the Champions League, this year also the good thing is that with Luis Enrique they got a plan and they can do it. That's the point. This year is the year that they can really do it, because for sure they're going to advance in the series with Aston Villa. I don't have any doubt. But the only thing is that if they will face Real Madrid in the same final, that will be the real proof. So to see if they are worth to win the Champions League, because I agree with one thing. Djibril was commenting that winning Champions League is not an earned right. You cannot say that you want to win Champions League in 5 years, no matter what. To win Champions League, you need to understand the competition and respect the competition. It's something we have seen from some clubs. They didn't do it on the previous years, and now they have learned to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of these clubs, this is my final point, a lot of these clubs in the Champions League right now, Juventus, Dortmund, they haven't won the Champions League since the 90s.
Yeah.
But Barcelona hasn't won it since 2015. Dortmund, Bayern Munich, they only win it like at a rate of once every 5 years. So the Champions League is a very punishing competition.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's very elusive. Only Real Madrid has got that little juju that makes them win it consistently. But
no, I agree with that totally. I just wanted to shout out something I saw the other day about PSG that was from a TikTok creator. He's very I quite enjoy his stuff, but he mentioned that basically PSG have like, I don't know the right word, not given in, but like bought into the like really. The flair players, the players that will try something, the players that they mimic like street football in Paris. Like a lot of them grew up playing that street football in Paris, or in France, the Doués, the Dembélés, and it's like translated, and it almost allows the fans to connect a bit more with the team, because obviously the PSG fans have been not spoiled, but like, when you have a front three of Neymar, Mbappe and Messi, you are spoiled. Like that doesn't happen to ordinary clubs. But all of a sudden, these fans are like seeing these players that are a bit like them. A lot of them will be like, "That's how I play. I'm quick. I'm fast. I fight for the badge. I fight for this." And all of a sudden, they've got that this season, which I think has helped because the fans have bought into it a little bit more than they have previously. There seems to be a bit more harmony there. Which is the last point I'd like to make on them. I just think they're obviously when they knocked us out, I was a bit critical of them. Us being Liverpool, I was very critical of PSG. I just didn't think they were that good, but since then I've watched a little bit more of them and I've understood that they are actually that good and they are a really, really exciting team to watch.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's just get one final score prediction from both of you. Djibril, what's going to happen at Villa Park?
I predict a Villa win that won't change anything in the end. So like a win by 1 goal. So I'd say something like 2-1. Okay. Like 2-1. I think Villa they're attacking. They have attacking prowess. Yeah. It's defensively where they're a bit suspect. I don't know if Disasi is going to play again because he had an absolute shocker last time. That's my prediction.
And Alejandro, where do you see it going on at Villa Park? How do you think that's going to end up?
I will say 1-2 for PSG in Villa Park. So total aggregate will be 5-2 for PSG.
Yeah, I'm going to go along the same lines as you. I was going to go 2-0 PSG, but I think that Villa will score. I think they might even grab the first goal. But yeah, I think PSG will win it again. Yeah. And that concludes our little look at the second legs of the Champions League quarterfinals. A very exciting set of fixtures, no more so than in Madrid and at the Bernabéu. I'm sure we're all very, very excited for that. Thanks again, guys. Comment your predictions. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you soon. Catch you later.